All right, so last night I was sent a document that was presented to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu over a week ago, and it's in regards to White Stadium. Of course, both her administration, nobody responded to this letter and or email that was sent, at least not yet. And I've honestly been doing a lot of thinking about this even prior to getting notified of this, and I wanted to ask you guys a question. What would the future of Massachusetts look like if there was more transparency from our elected officials? But just as important, what if there was a platform where public opinion had a real voice, where people could basically cut through the noise and get in touch with these elected officials? Now, let me explain why I think this is important and why I think this matters, right? So I'm all about cutting through unnecessary barriers, right? The harder you make something, the less likely it is to happen. The more friction there is between a consumer or the public and to get from point A to point B, the less likely they are to do it. So let me explain a little bit, right? Right now, it's a massive, massive challenge for the public to communicate with their elected officials, at least get a response. Perfect example right here. People are stuck writing emails or letters that go unanswered, or they attend town hall meetings where they may not even get a chance to speak. I think that system in 2024 is somewhat broken. All right. You guys may know better than me, but I mean, look, there's people that want change, but they don't necessarily have the time to go to town hall, or they go to town hall and again, they can't even talk. So here's what I believe. I think that open and efficient communication between the public and these leaders could actually influence how decisions are made. Think about it this way, right? When a company listens to its customers and users provide some levels of feedback to make changes, literally everybody benefits, right? So why can't our government work the same way, right? Why aren't they live streaming public forums or hosting polls that are easy to access or creating platforms for real-time feedback, right? Imagine how much stronger our policies could be if they truly reflected what people wanted. And not only that, it would be a more efficient system overall. The public would have more input to give to these elected officials and make changes that are going to affect the people the most, which is the public, right? So I want to hear your thoughts on this, because it's not about, I'm not trying to complain here. It's just about finding solutions that work in today's day and age, right? Now, I'm going to get into this article. I received it again last night. It's about and regarding White Stadium, and it's a perfect example of why the public opinion needs to matter, all right? I'll share my screen. We'll get right into it. So this was written December 11th, 2024. It says, "Dear Mayor Wu, we are writing to express our deep concern with the city's proposal to spend taxpayer dollars, now estimated at $91 million, to develop a professional women's soccer stadium at White Stadium in historic Franklin Park. At this time of financial uncertainty and insecurity, this represents an unfair tax burden on Boston's taxpayers." I agree with that. By comparison, the long-awaited renovation of the existing stadium for public school use could be completed for $20 million or less. So I'm assuming they may have gotten some estimates from contractors and or developers to come up with that figure, which is substantially less than 91 million. And there are a lot of people behind the scenes that have sent me info that don't think it's going to cost this much. They think it's going to exceed this 91 million. So the better option is for the women's and men's team to share space in the recently advanced Everett Stadium development. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. On every level, sharing the soccer stadium, as happens with all but one other professional soccer team in this country, is a great opportunity for Boston. Not doing so is an assault to our pocketbooks and quality of life. The following chart shows the financial and quality of life advantages of a shared facility. And then what they have here is basically financial outcomes of a shared facility versus them somewhat privatizing this facility that they're building, right? So together, the Everett Stadium will be built with private investment and without public funds. So your taxpayer dollars essentially are not going towards something that you either support or don't support. A privatized White Stadium will cost Boston taxpayers an estimated $91 million or more, right? Together, with one exception, the U.S. soccer stadiums are shared between men's and women's professional teams. By splitting expenses and risk through a shared model, women's soccer has successfully grown across the country. Then alone, building a separate stadium for women's soccer in Franklin Park, seating 10,000 compared to 24,000 in Everett, runs the risk of being too expensive, not large enough for the growth of their fan base, and of failing. Okay, that would be worst case scenario. It would leave taxpayers to maintain an overbuilt stadium. That is true. That is a true argument. Together, the Everett Stadium location has better parking and public transportation access. The currently unused rail line in this location could be reactivated, and there is an opportunity to develop a ferry service. Then alone, White Stadium is located in Frederick Law Olmsted designed Franklin Park, which is a Boston landmark. It sits at the heart of Boston's environmental justice communities of Roxbury, Mattapan, Jamaica Plain, Roslindale, and Dorchester. The White Stadium proposal expects fans to take public transportation or park in distant satellite lots to be bussed in, causing increased traffic and restricted residential parking in densely populated neighborhoods. Again, we talked about this yesterday, and parking could potentially be an issue here, and a lot of the residents of these neighborhoods are upset with increased traffic. That is a potential big problem. Somebody, and of course I don't have verification of this, said that, I forget who the user's name was, I apologize, but they said that there was a study done on the traffic, but it was done in the wintertime, and it wasn't done at like the peak soccer season. So you're taking data from one source that's not going to apply when it actually comes crunch time and the soccer stadium is open and they're playing games there. They need to reevaluate that data and actually provide some more evidence-backed data during the time that people are actually going to be at the soccer field versus in the winter time, okay? I think that's a fail on their part. And here we go. Quality of life outcomes continued. The Everett Stadium will be in an area that is primarily industrial rather than residential. The stadium will not impact multiple neighborhoods. And then alone, the 10,000 BOS national fans coming to White Stadium will create major traffic and parking problems, air, noise, and light pollution, and litter for neighbors, park users, park wildlife, and the Franklin Park Zoo. In addition, the proposal includes removing 2 acres of parkland and cutting down as many as 157 mature trees that are needed for climate resilience. Together, no school. This is the big one for me, right? Because I have children. No school teams in Boston or Everett will lose access to their practice or game fields. The more efficient use of resources will allow Boston to make long overdue investments in White Stadium solely for the use of Boston public school children and surrounding communities. Now, if they do this, this is what's going to happen. Alone, access to Boston public school would be restricted on 20 of the peak Saturdays throughout the year, forcing school football teams to relocate. The current design restricts viewing for some BPS sports, such as track and field. While the stadium would be new, it would be undersized for a professional sports team, yet oversized for Boston Public Schools and expensive to maintain. Then it goes on to say, New England Revolution Management and Boston National Women's Soccer Team founders were in discussion prior to the proposal for White Stadium, which is vigorously opposed by the communities that surround Franklin Park. Here's the deal, right? And I said this before in the previous video. So if you're going to do something, right, and you're like, here's what's going on, right? The Boston budget is bloated, right? They're already going to be shifting some of the tax burden and increasing taxes for the residents of Boston coming for 2025. Now they're in the process of spending as much money as humanly possible based on our mayor, basically writing a blank check to get this stadium done. And again, I'm from the position of I could back something as long as the data supports me backing it, right? I'm somewhat analytical, right? But I need to see something in order to understand if it's going to have a positive outcome or not. But taking into account what the public thinks, I don't live in those neighborhoods, right? So I think it's just as important as me and an outsider looking in as it is for the people that actually live there, how it's going to affect their daily lives, their work, their commutes, taking their kids to school, whatever it may be. And again, I think that there needs to be something done, right? We're living in 2024. It's almost 2025. I feel like there should be a larger responsibility other than going on, GBH or, like these news stations and just talking through a few issues for like a 1 or 2 minute soundbite. I think that what should happen, this is my opinion, I could be completely wrong, right? Let me know. I think that any elected official in any state, right? I think that they need to have more one-on-one engagements with the community. And I think the community should be the ones that determines, to some extent, right? They should be or should be able to have access and easy input towards these things, right? And a lot of times when people are sending emails or faxes or whatever they're doing to try to get this message out, what happens is a lot of the public a lot of you guys probably did not know about this. I did not know about this. I'm sure the residents of these neighborhoods knew about this. But the fact is, if the community knew more about these things, there's a higher probability that they would get on board with, what is going on, right? And that's why I think some levels of clear communication, like we're having today, from elected officials to the public, and either have polls or, just to reiterate what I was saying before, like polls, or have some community feedback and back and forth to see if moving forward with something is a good idea or if it's not. Because ultimately, it's the taxpayers and it's the residents of the city and the state that it affects the most, right? So elected officials are making decisions not based on the popular public opinion. They're making decisions based on what they want to do, and half of the time, those decisions are not backed by some levels of data, or at least they're not providing that data to the public, right? Again, the more data you provide, it is easier for somebody to get across the finish line, okay? And the more data you provide, it provides clarity to the public. When you are excluding data, that's when people get more upset. It's better to be honest about something, and if they came on and said, okay, this is a good idea, no, I'm sorry, this was a bad idea, just something along those lines, and be human about this process, that not all of us are perfect, not all of us make good decisions, but we make better decisions together. And that's why I'm on here, right? So at least that's how that should be, that back and forth should be. So anyway, guys, there's also a petition that, let me pull it up really quickly for you. So let me see where it is. Here it is here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen one more time, and I'm going to bring up this petition. Okay, here it is. This is for let me make it a little bit bigger. Apologize, guys. This is advocating for equitable use and profit sharing of the proposed Everett Soccer Stadium. And it was signed by 131 signatures. I'm wondering if we could get that up. And then it says, the issue, I support the sharing of one professional soccer stadium, basically going over what we just went over, right? And it goes a little bit into more detail. I'm going to leave a link to this petition in this video. I'm going to leave it in the description in this video. If you support this, if you don't support this, whatever your stances are, I think that, if you're on board with them effectively saving money and sharing a stadium, then you should potentially sign this petition. I'm on board with signing this petition as well. Don't do what I do what you think is right. That's what the public should be able to do. They should be able to have their opinions on these things. But again, when you're sharing or spending taxpayer dollars to fund something when you're already behind on budget and you're trying to scramble to rob Peter to pay Paul for the future budget of the city, it's not a good look, guys. It's not a good look. So I'll leave a link to this petition in the video. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. I will see you again next time. Have a good day.